infinite complacence, people went to and fro the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space.
When you're all caught up with Into the Fray, or simply just a little tired of hearing my voice and need another great interview podcast to listen to, head over and subscribe to Jim Harold's Campfire. Jim is one of the OGs of paranormal podcasting, and like me, doesn't use any sound effects or spooky music to try and add to the encounters. That's because they don't need it. He talks to real people with real experiences, from the spooky to the scary, and even heartwarming. His latest episode has him talking to someone in the UK that lives in a haunted flat, and to a young boy who interacts with someone who isn't really there in the traditional sense. Tune in to Jim Harold's Campfire on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to Into the Fray. Well, yeah, Ted, thanks for doing this. Or Tim, I should say, right, as I call you on Patreon. You're Tim now. Well, yeah, go right ahead. Let's hear about that black triangle then.
Okay. Well, it was early to mid 90s. And I know it was before that stuff happened in Arizona. And I remember that because I remember when the Phoenix lights, I remember seeing that on TV and I said, wow, that looks like that thing that me and my brother saw. But so it was before that. So I want to say it was like 94, 95, around there. But anyway, we were up at my parents' house, which is a small town, New Hampshire, very rural. But they live on a main stretch, like right in the center of town. And right across the street from the house is the town library, and there's a school and the town offices, and just a very typical small town. But they live on a straightaway, which is probably about a quarter of a mile long or so. And I want to say it was Thanksgiving. And my brother and I stepped outside to have a cigarette. So we went out the front door, and the road runs right by the house. So we're standing by the road. We're sitting there talking and blah, blah. My brother was facing away from the road, and I was facing the road. So I looked to my left, and coming down the straightaway, like right down the road, but I'm really bad with like height and distance, but an average, from what I've researched, like an average utility pole is 50 feet, especially, 50 feet, like one of the wooden telephone pole
right.
things. And this thing was, if you took another telephone pole and stacked them one on top of the other, that's how high it was. So I'm thinking it was about 100 feet or so up in the air. But it was coming down the road real slow, and it was completely blacked out. And there was a light at each point of the triangle. There wasn't a central light like I see some photos of. It was just the three, kind of what do they call it? Delta formation,
right?
Type of a thing. So, but it's coming down the road and just creeping along, like so slow. It almost just looked like it was floating. It wasn't. It didn't seem like it was being propelled. It just almost looked like it was just floating over like a balloon or something. And to give you an idea of how slow it was going, like if you were to stand up and look to your left, and picture something going over your head and following it with your eyes until you were looking to the right. This thing, that it was probably a good 8 to 10 count, a full 8 to 10 count. That's how slow it was going. And it went right over the top of us, and it wasn't making a single sound, nothing. It was dead silent. And we both were just watching it, and it went over, and then it keeps going down the road, right straight down the road. And then when it got like, I don't know, like right at the road to the right, the road kind of, it hits a curve and kind of goes down a hill. And so right when it got to the crest of that hill, it just kind of cocked a little bit to the left, and then it just disappeared, just boom, gone. And I looked at my brother, and he looked at me, and he's like, "Get in the truck." So I'm like, all right. So we ran and we jumped in the truck and we chased it. We went after it. And, we know all the back roads in there. Like I said, it's very rural, a lot of woods, farms, blah, blah, blah. So we went down and we're driving around where we think it might have headed and blah, blah, blah. But we never saw anything out of that. We probably looked around for like 20 minutes, driving around the back road, seeing if we could see it again. But we never did. And I never saw any reports or anybody else ever spoke of it, but it was pretty close, and I can't explain what it was. If it was something that we have, I've yet to see anything like that. So it was just very strange, and it's just the way that it floated. It was very, very strange. And then, like I said, when I saw that stuff with the Phoenix lights, when that came on TV, and it was like a smaller version of that. I mean, this thing wasn't anywhere near the size that they were purporting to see, but I would say it was, like a mid-sized plane, maybe like span of wing or whatever you want to call it. It wasn't gigantic, that's for sure.
So if you take one of those middle size, they call them like puddle jumper planes, like if you're not going a far distance or you're landing at a smaller airport, you take one of those planes, like not as small as a private plane, but not as big as a regular commercial.
I'd say it was about, yeah. I mean, think of a private jet type of thing.
Okay.
It wasn't giant. Let's put it that way, but it wasn't like a 747 size deal.
Well, that 8 to 10 count is a very long time to be watching something like that.
Yeah. It was right over the top of us. Went right over the top of us. So
besides the lights, was there any seams or rivets or windows, anything like that?
I couldn't see anything except the lights. And the lights had that you bring that up. The lights had a strange look to them, because they weren't like emitting a beam like a flashlight will shine down on the ground. These were almost just kind of glowing. There was no beam illuminating the road. You know what I mean? They were just like this weird glow to them, and it was like a warm white color. It was very, very strange.
And what do you mean by it disappeared? Did it go up, or it just went around a corner?
It like I said, it kind of caught to the left, and then it just like blink of an eye, gone. It just couldn't see, and I couldn't see it taken off anywhere. It just was there and just blink out, gone. I don't know if it killed the lights or what, but it literally just vanished right in front of us. Like, we both like, well, what was that?
And this thing is completely black, essentially, in color, from what you could tell.
Oh yeah, it was black. It was blacker than the sky, and it was dark out, because it was that time of year around here when it gets dark at like 5 o'clock.
Right.
And it was probably 6 anyway when we were out there. So the sun had well gone down. It was dark out, but this thing was blacker than the sky, because I could see we could see the outline of it, but it was completely blacked out except for those lights.
That's cool. That's a cool sighting. And only 100 feet above your head is super close.
Right. Oh, it was. Neither of us felt any, it wasn't like scary, or like it didn't feel threatening at all. It was just, I was just just in awe of it. That's all I had. I mean, there was no fear or anything like that. I wasn't scared it was going to try to beam me up or anything. But I mean, I was just totally in awe of this thing because it was crazy. Seeing anything move like that.
And then you guys pull the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and your brother's like, "Get in the truck, we're going after it." I love that.
Oh yeah, well he's kind of like that.
That's great. That is great.
Of course, I hopped right in with him though. But...
Well, of course you can't, because if you didn't, you'd never live it down.
Right. We tried. That's about it.
So after you see something like that, I mean, did you guys start to, go outside more? Did that become any kind of an obsession about UFOs then?
Well, long before that, I always had an interest in them, and I always was very open to it because, I kind of thought it was ludicrous to think that we're the only ones in this whole universe, so I always kept an open mind about that. But yeah, sure. After that, I always find myself watching the sky when I go out, especially at night, but I'm always looking up there, just checking it out, making sure I'm not missing anything.
I mean, if you had to guess, do you think that it is something conventional, just far ahead of what's even around now, let alone back then? Or do you feel like it was some kind of an off-planet, quote-unquote, alien craft?
Well, like I said, if that was something that we had, I certainly had never seen anything like it. My brother was in the Air Force, and I know he'd never seen anything like that. And just the way that the silence of it and how slow it was moving, and then to just go, like just blink out, gone. It was, I can't imagine that was anything we had, especially back then, that could do that. But I don't know, of course. But I mean, I would say that this wasn't from around here. If we want to put it that way. That's what I got the impression of.
Let's hope that's the case, right? That's what I would like it to be, is something off planet with goodness knows what piloting it.
Right.
That's what I like.
Well, I lean towards that, but
right.
I try to stay skeptical as well, but I can't deny what I saw. So
it's just so damn boring if it's just one of us in a cool suit inside that can, if it takes off at the speeds that we see them take off at, that it's someone inside in some special suit that can handle that. That's so boring. I want the little gray men or the tall whites or something.
Right. I mean, in my honest opinion, I don't think, like I said, I don't think that was from here.
I like that one.
So
that's a good one. Tim, I like that one a lot because and the fact that it's so close, you don't hear that a whole lot. But you know what your story reminds me of is my stepbrother's story, where he was driving out to actually Area 51. He was still a good ways away from it, but he had a triangle shaped craft directly over his car, and it was, I think it's damn near the same level off the ground, or away from his car, I should say, as you guys' sighting. So that's pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard you tell that story.
Yeah. Sean told that on season 1 of On the Trail UFOs. We actually interviewed him when Seth came out here. So yeah, that was a really cool sighting. That he built the model and everything.
Oh, I didn't realize that was a relative of yours.
Yeah, his stepbrother. Well, technically ex-stepbrother, of course, but yeah, we know each other for a long time. And then once I started doing the show, we caught back up with each other, and come to find out we had both been into this stuff for years and years, which is pretty cool. So,
wow.
Yeah. Small world,
awesome.
Small world and small world of interests sometimes. Well,
right.
Ted, are we ready to talk about some ghosty stuff?
Sure. Okay, so this happened not too long ago, probably 10 years ago. My friend, her name was Jo. I ran into her during the day out and about, and I knew she had moved into a new place with her son out in a neighboring town. And so I think she had been there a couple of weeks or whatever, 3 weeks maybe. And so I asked her how she liked the new place and everything, and she said, "Oh, I'm not staying there." I'm like, what do you mean you're not staying there? She's like, oh, we're back. I'm living with my mom. And I said, well, are you still paying rent? Like, what's going on? She's like, oh yeah, I'm still paying rent. I've still got the lease, but we can't stay there. I'm like, why can't you stay there? She's like, well, there's bad things in there. It's, basically saying it's haunted, and I was always a little skeptical about the ghost thing, especially at this point in my life. I was just kind of, I had seen some, heard about some weird things and maybe had a couple of weird things, but I was just bah. But so she says, she's told me that that her son was very scared. He absolutely refused to live there, and that it was just very scary, and they didn't seem very like benevolent. Let's put it that way. I guess they were very aggressive. And I was like, really? I'm like, and I'd known this girl for years, and she's not a bullshitter, excuse my language. But I said, well, can I go check it out? And she immediately handed me the key to the place. She's like, sure, if you want to, go ahead. She's like, but I'm not going there. And so she goes, she had to go to work. She was a bartender at a local joint. And so I took the key and I called my friend Mark, and I said, he's usually down for anything. I said, hey, you want to go do some investigation at Joe's house? He's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, she says it's haunted. I'm going to go check it out. You want to come along? And he's like, all right. So we drove out there. We get to the place, and it's a big house. And the way the place is set up is the building that she's in is attached to another one, and it kind of makes an L, and she's in the long part. And then up the way is another building. So it's like, it's almost like a little compound in a way. And that as far as the history of the place, I think she told me it had something like, it was a very old house, which a lot of the houses are in New Hampshire. But it was converted from some sort of children's medical facility type of thing. Like,
oh boy.
It was something to do with kids. I know that. But anyway, so we went in, we're walking around, and the place is beautiful, but you could tell it wasn't built to be a residence, because like the dining room, the way that the dining, when you first walk in, you basically walk into the kitchen area, and to the right is the dining room, but it's gigantic, and it looked almost like a waiting room. And there's a large landing at the bottom of the stairs, and then the stairs go straight up. And this is the strange thing. There's 3 rooms upstairs, but there was no hallway like going down. It was just to get to another room, you had to go into one room and then go through a door in that room into the next room, and so on.
Mm.
It was a very strange setup. But so we walked around, and I suggested we just, split up and go into a room and sit there for a little while. I'm like, I've seen this stuff on TV. This is what they seem to do. So see if anything happens. And so we hung around there for, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour doing that. And I didn't get anything, nothing at all. And neither did he. And so I was like, well, I don't know what to think of it. So the arrangement was that when she got off her shift, we were going to meet at another bar, and I could give her her key back. So she got off, and I think it was like 11. And so we met at the other bar at around 11:15 or so, and we're sitting there and having a couple of beers. I give her the key back, and I looked up at the clock, and it was like quarter of midnight at this point. And I'm like, let's go back out there. And she's like, I don't really want to do that. And I'm like, come on. I'm thinking it's close to midnight. Maybe something will happen, if it's at night. So I talked her into it. So we grabbed the 6-pack and we drove out to the place. So we go in, all the lights are off. So we go in, we turn the light on in the kitchen, and then off of the kitchen to the left through a doorway is the living room. And so we grabbed a couple of beers and we went into the living room, and we're sitting there for a minute and talking, and I finished my beer, and I got up to go grab another one, and I walked through the door, and I looked through the dining room at that landing that I told you about at the bottom of the stairs, and the light was on. And the light wasn't on when we came in. Like I said, all the lights were off, and the light was turned on. And I was like, that's weird. I'm like, did you go upstairs? And no. I'm like, did you turn that light on? No. So I walked over, and I physically, the light switch, I shut the light off, went back in, same thing. We're shooting the shit and talking about the house and everything. And I got up, get another beer, grab her a beer. I walk in, and the light is on again. And not only is the light on, but the switch is actually physically flipped up, like from the position, like I turned it off, and it's flipped back up. I can see it. And I'm like, that light is on again. And she just kind of rolls her eyes. So I went over once again, and I shut the light off, went back in. And now, so we're kind of, okay, nothing's real. The light thing is kind of weird, but all right, let's start thinking about heading out of here. So we walk in, and of course, the light is turned back on, and we walk. But this time, from the upstairs, I hear like somebody walking across the floor, like thumping, like heavy footsteps going across the floor. I'm like, who is it? Is your kid here? And she's like, no. And I'm like, who's upstairs? And she's like, she just shakes her head and looking at me, and I'm like somebody's got to be here. Are you kidding with me? And she's like, no, it's probably them. And I'm like, it's probably them. Okay. I'm like, well, I'm going to go upstairs and take a look and see who's up there, because I can't stand it. So this is where it's hectic. So I get to the bottom of the stairs, and you look up the stairs, and it goes directly. There's a small landing at the top, and then the door to the first room, and that's all the lights are off in there. So I'm walking up the stairs, and when I got about midway up the stairs, I just started feeling like I felt like I was like almost like wading in water. I was like, it was like my pace was slowed for some reason. I just felt like I was like pushing through something. It's like, oh, this is weird. And then I started getting like chills and like weird sensations in my neck and stuff. And so I got to the top, and I walked into the room, and I got about 4 feet in, and I just froze. I couldn't move. And I just felt like this weird, like, I don't know how to, it's like this strange, like almost like an adrenaline rush type of thing. And like all the hair on the back of my neck and my arms are standing up. And like, I started actually feeling dizzy. And for some reason in the room, it was kind of illuminated by the light that's at the bottom of the stairs. It was kind of shining in, but it almost looked like there was, like the room was starting to get like, I don't know, hazy or kind of filled with like this white stuff. It was very strange. Like my vision was starting to cloud or something like that. And I just felt very intimidated, and I couldn't go, and I couldn't force myself to walk further into the room. And so I'm like, whoa. And I just felt very uneasy. And so I turned around, and I walked back out. So I'm standing in the threshold of the door, and I'm looking down the stairs, and she's at the bottom of the stairs, kind of off to the right. And then beyond her, you can see into the kitchen. And I'm like, what is going on? And she's like, she looks at me and she just shakes her head. She's like, we should probably go. I'm like, well, what is going on? And she just shaking her head. And I don't know why I did this. I don't know what made me do this, but I knocked on the door casing. I knocked 3 times. I went bang, bang, bang. And immediately from the kitchen, which I can see from where I am, it echoed what I just did, only it sounded like it was beaten on the top of the stove. And I mean, it was like angrily, bang, bang, bang. It echoed what I did, and I just had this horrible feeling. Like it felt like something was wanting to do me bodily harm, like seriously. And I looked down and I was like, what is going on? And she just looked at me and she said, we need to get out of here right now. And I said, I'm with you. So down the stairs I went, grabbed my stuff. I think we even left some stuff there and went right out the door and closed the door. We got out in the parking lot. And immediately in the parking lot, like the feeling just totally dissipated. But I turned around and looked back at the place, and every single light on in the house was turned on, even the upstairs, which wasn't. I mean, every light in the house was, I mean, it was like a Christmas tree. Every single light was turned on because, you know, a bunch of windows. And like I said, it was kind of like she was on the long part of that L shape structure. And there was lots of windows, especially upstairs. And every single light, and even the kitchen, the living room, the stairs, upstairs, all lit up. And I was like, we didn't do that. I'm like, she's like, just let's get out of here. So we hopped in the car and drove back to town and went to the bar and sat down. And like people were there that I knew, and they saw that I was obviously shaken up. And they were like, what's the matter with you? And I'm like, I don't know I can't talk about it yet. I don't know what that was. I can't explain it, but it was a very uneasy, intimidating type of feeling. It just, I got the distinct impression that whatever was in there did not want us in there. Absolutely not. I didn't hear any voices or anything like that, but that was basically it. That was probably the biggest one that I've ever had.
So your friend saying it's them, have you ever had her expand upon the whole them part?
Well, yeah, she just basically reiterated what occurred when I was there, but they seemed to pick on her son a lot. Like her son would constantly, like, there would stuff being missing from his room and showing up somewhere else, and he was scared to death. He wouldn't set foot in there. They seemed to go after him a lot.
I mean,
I remember that.
Did she feel like these were human entities, like adults, children? Was there any more specific information on that?
No, but she did hire a paranormal team to come out and investigate. I can't remember what I keep trying to get a hold of her and talk to her about it, but every time, like, I've tried to do that in the past, but she's very reluctant to talk about it, even to me. And but I know she did have a paranormal team come out there and run tests and blah blah blah. And I think she had someone come out there and try to smudge the house, you know, do the sage thing and get whatever's in there out. But she never went back. I know that.
Jeez. And she was still paying the rent. That's a really significant part of that story, that she was willing to keep paying but not stay.
Yeah, it was a year lease.
Jeez.
And it wasn't cheap. I mean, this was a very big place. It was a big house, very nice, a lot of very nice appointments, all woodwork, hardwood floors. I mean, it's a very, very nice looking place. But she paid that lease for the whole year, never stayed there again.
But she did, in fact,
contractually, she was bound to it.
Right. Well, and she did, in fact.
She said the landlord was never there, never even came to town. Never heard. Once she got the lease and everything signed, never heard from him again, never saw him again, nothing.
Yeah, once you're in a lease, you're, for the most part, kind of stuck or screwed in a situation like that, especially if you don't even want to stay in your own house. That's really unfortunate. Now, this whole children's medical facility, I mean, I think that's what it was. Don't quote me, but I've tried to ask her, and she's very dismissive about it. Right. And I can't seem to get info out of her. So I try not to bug her about it, because I know she was real shaken up by it. And I mean, I was too. I mean, after that, then I was, okay, well, this stuff there's something going on. Don't know what it is, but I can't deny that. I was scared to death. Like, I felt that, like, seriously, like, if this thing could have, like, hurt me physically, it would have. That's how I felt. I felt like if I didn't get out of there, it was going to start hawking knives at me or something. Well, as quickly as things went, especially once you got halfway up the stairs and started to have that feeling, everything escalated quite quickly after that.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. It was crazy.
That's a cool experience too, but again, not cool when it's your own house. And that poor thing, she just is like, "Well, I'm living with my mother." And you're like, "What?" Yeah, that would be the proper avenue to take if that's what's going on in your house. That must have been so creepy to turn around and see all of the lights on in the entire home. That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we didn't spend any time up. We didn't go. The only person that went upstairs was me when I went up there to see who was walking around up there. And I didn't turn any lights on. But when we got out there, every single light upstairs was turned on.
See, that's actually pretty significant because when you have one light that will turn on, there are elements within a light switch that can get worn down and then they can actually turn on or off by themselves, blah, blah, blah. But when you have an entire house just boop, light up like that, that's probably not going to happen just randomly because things are worn down.
Yeah. No, this didn't seem random at all.
So you guys didn't hear any voices, no groaning, no grunts, besides the knocking, of course.
Right. The footsteps and that when it echoed what I did.
Right.
And the footsteps, they sounded heavy. I mean, it was like really sudden, like somebody was stomping across the floor. And I'm like, who the hell is up there? It was like, it was after midnight. Like nobody came in and her kid was not there. There was nobody there except for me and her.
Yeah, it has the hallmark of a very angry male presence is what it seems like, huh?
I kind of got that impression, I guess. I mean, if you want to put gender on it, I mean, I don't know. It just felt like a very ominous force, whatever it was.
If it was even human.
What's that?
If it was even human, though.
Right. Yeah,
at any
never
point.
saw anything except for like when I said like my vision started. It almost seemed like it was getting cloudy. But as far as visuals, that was it. I didn't see anything. I didn't see any figures or apparitions or anything like that. So,
yeah, I wonder if you had kept walking room through room, since you didn't have the opportunity of using a hallway, as you said. My goodness,
right.
What would have happened if you had gone even deeper within that house?
Oh, I physically couldn't. I felt like something was I was frozen in place. I couldn't go any further. It's almost like there was a wall there. It was very strange.
I would be interested to look that place up.
I'm then meaning to try to get hold of her to at least get the address or what the address was, because I've been wanting to do that too.
Yeah, that would be kind of a fun project. Maybe for Patreon, we could come up with some, of a backstory with this thing. That would be pretty incredible.
Right, get the history of the place.
Yeah. Because there's something pretty nasty that's gone on there.
It definitely seemed like it was some sort of facility.
Mm.
Like those rooms up there almost seemed like they were, little patient rooms, But I mean, it was built a long, long time ago.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not sure the exact date, but you don't see houses built like that nowadays. It certainly wasn't a modern facility. And it's in a very small town, too.
Right. And anybody's guess is as good as ours as to what's going on there. If it's something demonic or non-human entity or perfectly human when it was alive, or he or she, I should say, it. Sometimes they just are pissed because they're stuck somewhere or they're, you're in their house. But like you said, it doesn't seem like it was ever originally intended to be lived in a conventional sense. So,
right.
Very cool. Well, Ted, anything else? Did I fail to ask you anything or anything else you need to share?
Well, just for the sake of just to contrast and compare. In the place I'm living in now, I think I've got something in there, but it's totally different. This one actually strikes me like it's a little kid, and it almost seems like it plays tricks on me once in a while.
Well, and what will this child do?
Well, the first thing that I noticed, I have a roommate, and that we were both home, and the bathroom was upstairs, and I went up and I noticed that we were out of toilet paper, so I put a new roll of toilet paper on the dispenser. And I came back down and hanging around, and I had to use the bathroom again after an hour or two or whatever. And I walked back up, and that toilet paper that I put on the dispenser was missing. And I was like, I know I put a new roll of toilet paper on there. I'm like, am I going nuts? I'm like, what's going on here? So I grabbed another roll and I put that on there. And when I went downstairs, my roommate was in a separate room off of the dining room. He was working on his computer or something. And so I got thinking maybe he's got a cold, or he grabbed the roll because he's needing to blow his nose or something. I was trying to figure it out. So I'm like, did you take the toilet paper off the roll upstairs? He's like, no. Okay. Because I know that I did. So anyway, the night wears on. I go to bed, and my room, the door opens inward, and then so I always sleep with my door shut. When I woke up in the morning, there was a roll of toilet paper in my room, pressed tight, sitting right on its end, pressed tight right up against my door.
What?
Yeah. And there's no way that my roommate you couldn't have done that. Physically, it's impossible to do that, because the door, he would have to have tucked his hand in while he's shutting the door and tossed it, and it had to have landed perfectly
Right.
on its end and right up against the door. But that's where it was. And I looked at him like, what is going on here? So that's the first thing I noticed. Another instance, this is my favorite one, actually. I was there by myself. I had the day off. My roommate was working. So I was watching TV downstairs, and I'm a smoker. So I go outside on my little deck to have a cigarette, and I had my lighter in my pocket. I always keep my lighter in my pocket. And so I grab a cigarette, go out there, blah, blah. So, the day is going on, and I smoked a cigarette, came back in, was watching TV again. About a half an hour later, I walked back out, and I grabbed a cigarette, and I reached in my pocket, and my lighter's gone. It's not in my pocket. So I'm like, did I leave it outside? I'm like, that's not like me. So I go out and I check on the railings, nowhere. I look around, maybe it fell off. Maybe I put it on the railing and the wind took it off or something, and it fell into the grass. I looked around the whole deck, gone. Not on the counter. I searched the whole house, but I know I hadn't gone upstairs, and I just smoked a butt like 20 minutes before that, and my lighter just disappeared, just gone. It was the strangest thing. And I was the only one there. And it just was absolutely, I checked, I tore the couch apart. I'm like, how does this thing just disappear? I always, it's a habit. I always keep it in my left-hand pocket, and it was gone. It just disappeared.
And it's never turned back up?
No. And it did that with a drink I was drinking once, too. I was doing the dishes, and I was having I think it was a beer or a hard seltzer or something. But I was doing the dishes, and I had the drink on the stove. And midway through the dishes, I had to use the bathroom. So I went upstairs, used the bathroom, came back down. The drink is gone. And I'm like, did I finish that? I looked in the trash. I'm like, no, I didn't. I know I didn't finish it. And I looked in the trash, not there. I'm like, did I take it upstairs with me? And I went back upstairs. I looked in the bathroom. I didn't go in my room, so I know it wouldn't be in there. But I looked anyway, of course. Looked around the whole house. The drink, half full, gone. Just disappeared. Just right off the counter.
That one's actually pretty weird. I mean, the lighter one is too, but the lighter's so much smaller that you know, you could, I don't know, someone could come up with
I
something
tore
to,
the house apart.
yeah.
Man,
But for the drink
and
thing,
there was no one else there to steal it.
yeah.
And there's nowhere, the floor of the decking is too tight for a lighter to fall through. And I checked around where it could have fallen off the railing from where I was sitting. And I even got right down on the ground and see if it kind of tumbled up under the deck, but it didn't. Not there. Just gone. Very strange.
Yeah.
But it's not scary strange though. Not like that other thing. Not like that other thing at all. It's completely different. It's almost entertaining.
Were there other instances?
What's that?
Were there other instances?
Those are the latest three. And I never hear any noises or anything like that, or certainly never seen anything, but it's just the little tricks. And I know it's not my roommate doing it because he doesn't have the motivation to do anything like that anyway.
Oh, when did that start? These little trickster elements.
Oh, I've been in the place over like about a year and a half now, and I would say it started happening within the first 3 or 4 months of being there. That was the first instance was the one with the toilet paper roll. That was the first thing. But then weeks went by, and then the drink, and another few weeks, and then the lighter. And I haven't seen anything. I haven't had anything after that. The lighter was the last thing, so I'm waiting.
Have you ever
comes up with next? But
have you ever thought about talking out loud to it just to see, just to ask what it wants?
Well, I don't. It's kind of embarrassing, but I do.
No,
like I don't. One time when I'm leaving, I say, "See you later."
I don't think that's embarrassing. I think that if things are going on like that in my house, I would be talking to it as well. I would just be asking, "What's up? What's going on?"
I think I've said out loud to it, like, "I'm totally fine with you being here. You know, just don't take anything important."
Right. Don't hide the car keys if I have to go to work.
Don't be scarfing my wallet or anything like that. But,
well, yeah.
You can fool around if you want. But.
That, Ted, but also, don't be like tugging on my toes at night, or, I like to sleep, right. So don't screw with me when I'm trying. Of course, it did do the toilet paper thing, which is that's also very interesting, by the way. So far, so good, huh? Nothing scary. So.
No, I'm totally fine with it.
Well, has your roommate noticed anything, or is it just messing with you?
I don't know if he has or not. I think he's a little, because I definitely told him about all this stuff, and he always thinks like, well, maybe there's like a dimensional rift and stuff is just slipping through there. I'm like, well, that doesn't really explain the toilet paper,
right?
But so he just kind of, he's a lot younger than I am. He's in his mid-20s, and he's got other fish to fry, of course. So I'm sure he's not constantly thinking about it, but not to the extent that I am, anyway.
Right. Yeah, you have to be in the right mindset to notice that stuff. And obviously, since you listen to shows like mine, then you're on that level where you would probably notice things more than your roommate.
Yeah. And my mom is sensitive to like the ghost stuff too. So,
has she ever walked into your home now and said, "Oh, I feel something in here"?
No, I don't actually. She's never been there. She's 80 years old at this point.
Yeah.
So she and my dad just got to hang out at their house. Don't get out much anymore, but she's had her stuff too. But
well, then, do you think that some of that sensitivity rubbed off on you?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. I don't know about any of this stuff, to be honest with you. I mean, I just know what's happened, but I can't explain it.
Well, I mean, obviously your friend that had the big house had experiences, and so did her son, because they didn't want to live there. But, your simple walking up the stairs activated such a strong response from whatever was in there, and you felt it. So, I'm just wondering if somebody like me, who admittedly I'm not sensitive as I can't say it all because everybody has sensitivity and you can cultivate it, but I am not sensitive like others.
You had quite a visual, though.
Yeah, just the one time, though. And I didn't, there was no premonition. I didn't feel anything about it except for kind of freaked out for a little while. But, if I would have gone into that house and walked up the stairs, I'm just wondering how far into the house would I have to go or how long would I have to stay there to experience anything like what you did? Because yours was, that was
I think if
pretty
anybody
strong.
else was there, if anybody else was there, they would have definitely felt something. It was serious. And I don't scare easy. I don't get creeped out. I'm not scared of going into the woods or in the dark or any of that. But I was scared. I felt like in danger.
Well, yeah, Ted, if you can track down even just the address and, I'm not going to make it public or anything. It could just be kind of a side project, just to maybe find out a little bit more information about that property.
I intend to.
That'd be pretty cool.
I just got to get her to, because I probably couldn't find the place now if I tried, but because it's not in a town that I really know the roads or anything like that. But.
All right.
I will try to at least try to get her to tell me where it was or in the vicinity anyway, because I'll recognize it if I see it. But it'll be an adventure.
It's always good to keep learning, right? And especially if it's something you're interested in and you actually experience something there, it'd be pretty cool. But keep me informed with what's going on at your place if things start to amp up or things change or if there's another incident of, it's not cool to steal somebody's beverage alcohol. That's pretty messed up, by the way. That's crossing a little bit of a line.
Yeah, I felt a little violated by that.
Exactly. I'm like, look, take my keys, take the TP, but gosh dang it, you better get off my drink.
Right. I need that.
What if that's the only one you had because you didn't feel like stopping after work or something to get a fresh 6-pack and damn it, it's gone. What the hell, man?
That was my last beer, you bastard.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Ted, thank you so much for doing this. And can I just say before we hop off, a million thanks for your support over on Patreon. It really does mean a whole lot to me.
Oh, absolutely. I love the show.
Thank you very much. Well, I'll let you go, let you enjoy the rest of your day off, and let's talk soon. Let me know if we can maybe coordinate that whole thing to talk more about that property. Okay, I will. I'll get on it. Oh, awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much, Tim. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks, Ted. All right, Sharon. Okay. You have a good day. All right, you too. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Well, I'm so-and-so. I was given this name by my parents. I've been to such and such a college. I've done these things in my profession. I produce a little biography. Buddha says, forget it. That's not true. That's some story. That's all gone. That's all past. I want to see the real you are now. Well, nobody knows who that is. Because we don't know ourselves except through listening to our echoes and consulting our memories. But then there's a real you, and that again leads us back to this question. Who are you? That is the real you. We shall see how they play with this exam by the koans to get you to come out of your shell and find out who you really are.
They will say, no, we don't believe literally in reincarnation. That after your funeral, you will suddenly become somebody different, living somewhere else. They will say reincarnation means this, that if you sitting here now are really convinced that you're the same person who walked in the door half an hour ago, you're being reincarnated. If you are liberated, you will understand that you're not. The past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. There is only the present. That's the only real you that there is. The Zen master Dogen put it this way. He said, spring does not become the summer. First there is summer, and then there is spring. When you settle down in the train to read your newspaper and so on, you are not the same person who a little while ago left the platform. If you think you are linking your moments up in a chain. And this is what binds you to the wheel of birth and death. But when you know that every moment in which you are is the only moment, this comes into Zen. A master will say to somebody, get up and walk across the room. And he comes back and he says, where are your footprints? They've gone. So where are you? Who are you? When we are asked who we are, we usually give a kind of recitation of a history.